While another collaborative transformation has occurred over the past few years here in Jersey City, and one more is being hoped for in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. The only Loew's Wonder Theater currently in disuse, the King's has sat empty for almost 30 years. While some parts of the theater have been ravaged by water damage and vandals, a lot of the theater still retains its original beauty. Today, the New York City Economic Development Corporation, in conjunction with the City of New York and the Borough of Brooklyn, are actively seeking a developer who will restore the King's to a working theater and its rightful position as one of Brooklyn's true gems. The Loew's King's. Some have called it the most beautiful theater ever built. Today, elegant even in ruin, it sits empty, left quiet and alone for almost 30 years. But in its heyday, it made patrons' jaws drop and their eyes grow wide with wonder.
I should share with you that I had my very first date here when I was about 16 and a half years old. And in the balcony, that's where you always sat on your dates, in the balcony. And it was a magnificent theater, beautifully maintained, beautiful brass, unbelievable lobby.
Whether you're in the 20s or the 2005, 2006, it doesn't matter in what generation, people need to be entertained, and they need to feel the excitement and the glamour that a theater like this has.
When I was a kid growing up, I had the Loew Kings in Brooklyn, and I graduated in '74, and if you would have told me in 1977 that the theater would have been shuttered, I would have told you, I cannot buy that or believe it and accept it and stuff, yet it sits 29 years empty, waiting for its new life.
Opening the same day as the Loew's Paradise, the King's was considered the treasure of Brooklyn, as well as the jewel in the Loew's crown. This Wonder Theater was the 25th largest theater in the United States and the first to be specifically designed for talking pictures. The first show was Evangeline, starring Dolores Del Rio. And bringing Broadway to Brooklyn, Del Rio also starred in a live stage show featuring the glamorous Chester Hale Chorus Girls.
For relatives of mine that, of course, older than I, they used to see live shows here when they were younger. And then it became live shows and a movie, and then it became, of course, all movie theater.
Patrons couldn't help but be impressed when they walked under the King's 40-foot wide marquee into a French Renaissance palace. It had a grand lobby 70 feet long with 30-foot high walls covered with walnut paneling.
There's something about the Loew's Kings that is classy, and there's a good reason why, because the main two design elements were the Palace of Versailles and the Paris Opera House. The lobby was overpowering. It was so majestic, so grand, so classy, that it really left you dumbstruck. In a way, you felt like you were walking into a magnificent synagogue or church. The bathrooms are not just bathrooms here at the Loew's Kings. They're really sitting areas. The men's room up here on the mezzanine has King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table in gold leaf right over the entranceway. If you go to the ladies' room, you have a lounge and a fireplace and beautiful ornate Victorian furniture. So everything was done to the hilt.
The chandeliers, not one, not two, there had to be maybe, well, I'd say 4 to my recollection. And the beautiful furniture, the sofas, everyone used them. The works of art, the fountains, even the water fountains from which you drank, it was nothing like today. And then, of course, the grand staircase going up to the balcony. The words sometimes escape me, especially now, just how beautiful it really was.
The auditorium was no less impressive, with Corinthian columns made of marble, a 60-foot wide proscenium arch, and a gilded ceiling that towered over the orchestra. The large arches of the sidewall were filled with beautiful tapestries. In a layout considered unusual for its time, the auditorium had the majority of its seats on the orchestra level, with a small mezzanine and no balcony. For over 40 years, the Kings had a good run, with a rich history all of its own. Barbra Streisand was an usherette in the 50s while attending nearby Erasmus High. When she left, Streisand was said to have remarked that one day she would be back when her name appeared on the marquee. Her prediction came true again and again. But low attendance and high maintenance costs did the theater in, and by '77, the house went dark.
There was less interest in going to see one movie in one theater, and that's when the concrete bunkers, the multiplex just boxes came to be, and people forgot what's behind the wall, behind the iron gate here at the Loew's Kings.
I think you'll find the Kings reflective of many other urban centers where movie theaters that were this large, we're talking about 3,700 seats approximately, that frankly the movies, a single movie, was no longer generating that type of audience.
Loew's sold it, I think, for some ridiculous, like $1, to another operator who ran it into the ground, and that was it. Then the city of New York took over, the Economic Development Corporation, and they have tried periodically to find a developer who could reopen this theater, and they're still trying.
The Loews Kings poses a challenge. Obviously, there are significant restoration costs in terms of preserving and restoring it to its original design. So there's a significant capital investment that must be secured.
This place needs a lot of work, there's no question about it. But I think that it could be a regional destination, having people come from all over Brooklyn, if not elsewhere.
These are theaters that need to be saved. They're an important part of our history, and to bulldoze them down is just unfathomable. You know, they can't be rebuilt anymore, you know, at the course of things today. So we must respect them, maintain them, fight for them, save them, and put them back into use.
The Kings today is a mature lady who is crying out for a complete makeover. She's crying out. She's waiting. Her beauty is there, but it needs to be polished.
My feelings today are really no different from every other time I've been in here. I've been in here maybe 100 times, and I see damage, and I see what could be done to fix it. I have a positive attitude. I believe that this place could be put back in shape, but when I walk in, it's cold, it's damp, it's dark, it's musty and dingy. You can't get away from that. You can't get around it. But the thing is that you have to be an optimist when it comes to something like this.
The opportunities are in front of us. So we either let it happen or make it happen. Let it happen is not happening. It's almost 30 years now. We sit here in a magnificent structure that's gotten a little mature, a little older. It really needs a major improvement. And I'm confident that we're going to make it happen. The Kings is a passion with me, no question about it. Brooklyn is where legends are made and dreams come true. We need to help shape the future by bringing back a little bit of yesterday.
A place like this would never be built again. The Kings is a place that is totally unique. I look around and I'm sad, but at the same time, somehow I feel exhilarated. Because the Kings is not dead, it is not forgotten.
Well, I do not go to the movies very often, if at all, quite honestly. And when I did for a while after that, it was nothing to compare to the Kings. I would just love to see this theater back up again. It's a terrible loss because it was just something so wonderful to see.
I'll tell you, the people who live in Brooklyn, who grew up in Brooklyn, they would tell you that the Loew's Kings is absolutely worth saving. You know, there's so many memories that these kinds of theaters create, and that's the thing that most people forget. It's like, yes, it's a building, but it's far more than just a building. It's a building that has housed the first dates, the first nights, the first anniversaries, the first birthdays of so many people and so many different memories, and that's the thing that many people, when they think about saving old theaters and going to old theaters, the reason that they go there is not just for the experience, but it's also these places are their housing of all their childhood memories.
When Breakfast with the Arts returns, more on the Wonder Theaters, plus music great Bonnie Raitt. Stay with us.